take things gradually, to not try to, push things too hard, to not try to go beyond your abilities. You do have to push yourself, but you have to see it as kind of a long-term process that, year after year getting better and better and learning from your experiences. Is learn what you can from each race, learn what you can from your training, and see that as a gradual process is a huge part of kind of long-term success. Well, I'm 38 years old today. I'm a clinical and sports psychologist. I actually just started racing and obstacle course racing about 5 years ago. I've always been an athlete most of my life. I played in a lot of sports, team sports. In my 20s, I started getting into more kind of solo sports, running, trail running, biking, lots of snow sports, snowboarding, skiing, that kind of thing. Well, I was doing my PhD in Winnipeg at the time, and a friend of mine who was in my program, he messaged me one day and he said, "Hey, have you heard of this Tough Mudder event?" And I'd never heard of Tough Mudder, I'd never heard of obstacle course racing at the time. This is about 5 years ago. I ended up doing the Tough Mudder in Minneapolis, and I was hooked from that point. So that qualified me for the world's toughest mudder, so I got into the ultra distances by competing at the Worlds. It was in my blood after that. I loved it. I love the community. I love the energy of the sport. It's just, everyone's really supportive of each other, and so there's a real kind of culture around it that just got me hooked. The reason I compete in this sport is because I just really want to push myself, and I want to see what heights, what kind of levels I can get to. And a lot of it has to do with the community too. So just competing with a lot of these fellow competitors. I mean, they're just amazing people. They're amazing athletes. They're doing this for all kinds of different reasons. Some people are raising money. Some people are just doing it for themselves to kind of push themselves. And so in terms of the competition, that's why I compete, is really to be a part of that community. But in general, I train and for personal reasons, I just like pushing myself and seeing what I can do. In terms of the sport itself, obviously getting over obstacles, the races themselves are really unique. Each race has its own obstacles, and just the sense of problem solving and pushing yourself and getting through those obstacles, it's unique. It's always kind of, it's always a novel experience depending on the race. You get out on the course, you don't always know what to expect. It's not like, you're running the same road race, right? You're out there, you're in the mud, there's electricity, there's ice, there's jumping off of cliffs, that kind of stuff. It's just really, really exciting that way, and I think the fact that it's novel and it keeps people guessing is a really unique aspect of the sport that I think draws people in. Part of it is personal, part of it is professional. The personal reasons that I do it, again, just to see what I can do. But I have a professional kind of investment in this, that I work with athletes as a psychologist, as a sports psychologist. And it's important for me to know what athletes go through and what they have to endure, what they have to get over in competition, in training. And getting firsthand experience of that is absolutely crucial for me. So obviously I have a personal investment and motivation for doing it, just for my own well-being and my own health, and always developing. But that professional understanding as well is huge for me. I just had people inquiring about how much of the sport is mental. I mean, I think I think every sport is 100% physical and 100% mental. I know that kind of like mathematically doesn't make sense, but that's exactly how it works. The body and the mind are one, right? I mean, really, in everyday language, we talk about the mind and the body like they're two different things, but the truth is they're not. And so when you're in a race and you're in a competition or you're in training, right, and you want to push your body, it's really important that your mind is kind of in that same place. When you think a certain way, when you're kind of oriented in a certain way and you have a certain perspective, your body will follow, right? And so visualization and being able to focus on the right things at the right time is a huge part of physically performing in the moment. So mental toughness is absolutely huge. I clumsily balance my training with work. That's always a learning curve for me. I mean, I'm really I'm doing my very best to get the training hours in after work, but honestly, my days are long and I'm kind of in the early stages of my career. So I put in a lot of hours at work and then it's straight to the gym. There's early mornings, there's late nights, you know, sometimes there's dinner at 11 p.m. So, you know, the days are long and it's definitely a delicate balance between getting the work obligations in and getting your hours in training. There's a couple different gyms that I train at. They kind of each have their strengths, so I kind of rotate my training between the two gyms, but I spend a lot of time outside. I'm spending a good chunk of time in the mountains, just trail running, just getting out on the trails and pushing myself out there. And then when I can't get out to the mountains, I'm usually on the trails in the city here, just running on the trails. My training will vary a lot depending on exactly what event that I'm working towards. So between ultra marathons and obstacle course racing, the races can be quite different. So depending on the demands of the race, I'll kind of adjust my training accordingly. Well, it's just a huge time commitment. It's a huge energy commitment. It's a financial commitment. So I would say the day-to-day grind, getting to the gym. There are times where, you know, there are highlights where it's just, you know, you're getting a lot out of it, and there are times when it's just a grind. And so I think it's just the continuous commitment and investment in the training that sometimes can get a bit tedious. For obstacle course racing, World's Toughest Mudder 2012, I finished in 12th place. That was my first ultra distance obstacle course race, and that was really heavy, and it was a huge accomplishment. It took a toll on my body for sure. I pushed pretty hard. I would say, you know, for OCR, that was probably my best finish. But the ultra marathons, even some of these ultra marathons that I run, they're just finishing them is an accomplishment. So each one is different, and I'm just happy completing those. Some advice I'd give someone just starting out in the sport is, I think, surround yourself with a lot of support. For example, like a physiotherapist, right? Someone that you go to for nutrition. And I mean, if that involves sport medicine, whatever you need to do to understand, first of all, how your body works, like getting a good assessment done. And then just getting information and getting advice from people who know how to train. You know, before you hit the gas pedal, you want to make sure that everything on the car is working, and just getting a good assessment done, surrounding yourself with people who are supportive. Learning about proper nutrition, learning about how to properly recover, learning about proper technique with training, whether that's, you know, whether you're doing weights or you're running, understanding your mechanics. There's just a lot of learning involved, and so with that learning you need support and you need a team that kind of knows how to guide you in that way. Just keeping your body healthy, keeping it, like getting to the start line uninjured is a huge challenge in and of itself. So when we talk about these races and what you accomplish in the races, just getting to the start line uninjured is a huge challenge. And so you have to know where the line is. You have to pay attention to your body in training. You can't push so hard that you end up hurting yourself, right? Overexerting. Understanding that taking time away from the sport, taking time away from the gym during an injury or a setback, you're actually moving forward, right? You're taking a step forward by taking a step back. That's a kind of a mental shift that a lot of athletes struggle with, is when you think about active recovery time and you think about allowing your body to heal. Taking the time off is actually moving you forward and getting you closer into training mode again. I think my daily routine for training, just general maintenance mode, it would be about an hour a day, just for maintenance. Getting on the treadmill or getting out on the road and going for a run, and then just keeping my strength up. So that would be, making sure my core and my glutes and everything's firing. My prime movers, just making sure that they're kind of, staying moving, they're staying strong. Because I do struggle with kind of that work training balance, I think my training ethic, it varies throughout the year. I think when the races get close, I get pretty focused and I start to pick things up, but generally in the off season I just focus on maintenance. I do like the upper body stuff, so I like pull-ups and just the rigs. I really do enjoy that. That's in some ways it's kind of a relative weakness for me. Like some of the rigs I'm very good on, and some of them I have a lot of work to do. So I think it's when you come face to face with those things that you're maybe not so good at that kind of motivates me to get better. And so I would say that some of the favorite stuff for me is also the least favorite. It's those areas where maybe I'm not so good. The warp pole is tricky for sure. It really takes commitment. So not only do you have to kind of, understand, the footing and have grip and know where to leap off, but it really, in terms of getting that lip at the top, you have to commit. You got to be all in, and that just takes practice. It takes focus. Like it took me, I think, 15 times before I got it, before I finally actually got up that wall, and that was all just figuring out my body, kind of inching towards that commitment, and then finally just going for it. And sometimes that's what it takes to get over some of these obstacles. So I do have, at different times in the race, at different times in training, I have certain keywords that I use to either settle me down, to get me ramped up. Whatever it is that I need to do to get in that optimal zone of performance, I will use those words. I'll use breathing. I think some of the words that I have kind of focus on, places and situations that I've been in the past that were calming for me. So I use a lot of keywords like that. I think I've changed as a person because just in terms of the accomplishments and the adversity that you face, when you get through those barriers and you accomplish some of the things that you accomplish in these races, you just get a real sense of confidence, and it boosts your self-esteem. And again, I think I talk a lot about the community in OCR. Just a sense of that community and being a part of something bigger, and having those kind of people surrounding you is just it's fulfilling. Some of these races, they really are taxing and they're very, very challenging. And when you start with the basics and you build up to it, it's not so crazy. But if you've never done anything like that before, it can certainly have that kind of the optics of being pretty crazy. But again, if you start small and build up to it, it's definitely doable. To be successful in obstacle course racing, you need to have really good endurance. You need to have very good upper body strength. I kind of think of the ideal obstacle course racer as kind of a marathoner and a rock climber. So having that ability to carry your upper body, or to carry your body with your upper body, so using your arms to get and having good proprioception and knowing where your body is to get through some of these obstacles, like to get through the rigs, is very, very important. The bottom line is it really also comes down to running. So your ability to put in the miles and do it very quickly, you have to have good endurance, you have to have really good running mechanics, and depending on the length of the race, right? I mean, that could be even more of a factor. So so just having really solid endurance and really good upper body strength. This is something that I really talk about with other athletes too. You really have to embrace your humanity and embrace, your fallibility. We're always trying to be better, we're always trying to improve. And I think, when you go through a race and maybe you didn't do something that, the way that you wanted, or you didn't get the outcome that you wanted, there's always some information you can glean from that as a way of getting better. But, there's a fine line between that and being hard on yourself and beating yourself up. And I think it's really important to stay on this side of the line, right? And take it easy on yourself and just learn what you can, focus on the successes, focus on the positives, right? And then just take, any of those criticisms, just see that as information that you can use to be better. It takes a lot of sacrifice for sure. So it really does come down to, if you want to be successful and you push yourself to these new levels, it's all about your values, and you have to position yourself. You have to be clear in your own mind about why you're doing it, and you have to kind of position yourself to do that. So in terms of the sacrifices, it's important that you understand in your own mind why you're doing it, and because the sacrifice is huge. So digging deep and finding that place to be clear on why you're doing it, that's critical to getting out there and actually putting in those miles and those hours at the gym. And it can be a very personal thing for each person and very individual. My goals for the X-Warrior Challenge are just to have fun. My role as an ambassador is to get people engaged, get people out there and more active. And so I'm just going to be out there kind of chatting with people and having fun. Obviously, I like to push myself in these races, so I'll probably be picking up the pace a bit too, but really just want to get out there and have some fun. It's a 5K, so it's a short burst, a very fast burst. So just a lot of hill training. So I incorporate hill training in pretty much with all my races, but just lots of hill sprints. I pick that up quite a bit when it gets close to the race. Again, just the long hours, like either on the spin bike, in the pool, and making sure that my muscles are just like the actual the running muscles, like your glute medius and your hip flexors, making sure that everything's really strong. It's kind of the same. It's just there's more hours, there's higher intensity. It's kind of the same workout that I do normally, but again, it depends on the race. So for the X-Warrior, being a 5K run, there's probably a bit of trails, just lots of hill sprints. It was really fun, actually. I thought it was going to be fun. It was even more fun than I thought it was going to be. The penalties made it a little bit interesting. So 5K is fairly short for me, so it was kind of over in a flash. But yeah, I don't know. It was kind of refreshing seeing no one at the finish line other than me, so that was kind of interesting. But yeah, no, I could probably do that a few more times. That was really fun. It's a pretty fun event, so I was just taking it easy. I was just trying to mingle with people and just kind of loosen up and relax. I think if it was a more intense race, I'd probably be a bit more active, but I kind of just took it easy this morning. Yeah, it was hard to judge kind of the pace because of the obstacles. I didn't know where they were going to be, and actually I didn't know how many of them there were going to be, so the pacing was, it was interesting. I kind of just had to fly by the seat of my pants. Yeah, so the course itself, like I said, it was flat. The penalties were burpees, air squats, mountain climbers, V sit-ups. So they really targeted the core and your quads, and that kind of made it interesting for running, getting back in it again when your legs are kind of engaging in all these different exercises. So it was interesting. I think just have fun. This event's all about fun. I mean, even the penalties were optional. So I'd say just have fun and run your race.